Welcome everybody to my Facebook Live feed with Raashida Khan. Today we are interviewing a most fascinating, interesting and wonderful woman. But before we do that, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself for those of you who don't know me. My name is Angela Hardy. I have a business called Cloud9, and my business is all about teaching people how to love themselves. My entire purpose, passion and goal in life is to have this experience of being able to work with people to find joy and happiness and freedom of mind and self-confidence and self-esteem and ultimately unconditional self-love. And I do that because I've walked this journey myself, and it's been a mission of mine since I was in my early 20s to try to learn how to control the craziness of the mind and have a clean, comfortable, happy, emotional experience. And so I'm pretty damn good at it if I say so myself, and Raashida will probably back that up. And she's going to talk to us about her thing, and she is an author. She's an author and a poet. And to me, I must say, the highest respect and regards for those people who can write. And funny story about Raashida is that I have many times put out blogs and put out videos and put out emails, and Raashida just every now and again phones me up and says, for God's sake, Angela, if you just edit your stuff before you put it out. Because it is a lot harder for me to write than it is for Raashida to write. I'm always thinking, oh, I'm doing this just fine, I have a really, really
No, you do a great job, but you don't proofread your stuff. You need to
can't proof, not for love of my, I cannot edit for love. I read extensively. I'm a super reader. I cannot find a spelling error. If you know that it comes from me because it has a spelling error in it, you know that it comes from me because I don't proofread. Because my mind reads what I think I've said, actually, as opposed to what I've written.
Yes.
So I'm the worst editor ever, and Raashida's constantly going, just let me edit your stuff a little bit before you put it out because it needs editing. So this is my friend Raashida, who is obviously very, very good at writing and editing because she has published 2 novels. Is that right?
Correct. 2 novels.
2 novels and a whole bunch of poetry.
Yes, a poetry anthology and a short story collection. So there's 4 publications.
All praise and kudos to somebody who can go through that. I mean, I can't even read it the second time to edit and proofread it, and Raashida can read it enough times to edit, proofread, and publish it, which takes a lot. I mean, I know that to write a book, not because I have personal experience, but because I'm too freaking scared to have that personal experience, it's a lot to write, edit, and publish a book. Tell me about the process of that a little bit and how difficult it is to get that done. And then we're going to talk about your journey and all sorts of things. And, read to us some of your stuff, and we're going to talk about that.
So, it was quite, I mean, the learning curve was like this. It was like this. I had to learn everything and do everything myself. So, when you think you're going to write a book, or I always said, I'm going to write. I never really got around to it until a few years ago when I got serious about it. Yeah. So you always think, okay, you're going to write the book, and then, you're going to get a publisher, and then the publisher's going to publish the book, and then people are going to buy your book, they're going to read your book, and, then you're going to write another book, and that's it. But I tell you, for me to produce my books, I mean, my books are, I don't know if you've read, I think you might have read some of my poetry, but I don't think you've read any of my novels. But my novels,
no, I've read that. I've read her.
They they challenge me, and I love it. I absolutely love what I'm doing, and I really, really enjoy writing. I really enjoy writing about emotions and about deep stuff. That's my thing. And can I tell you, though, that the actual writing of it is the easiest. It's actually
that's what I'm thinking.
It's the marketing, it's the distribution, it's the production, it's the ebooks on Amazon, it's the law. You've got to do everything on yourself, because I'm self-published. I sent my manuscripts out a couple of places, and that was actually right at the initial stage. Initially, this book, Mirror Cracked, was much bigger, and then I did it into sequels, and that's how I sent it out to publishers. And actually, it was because of publishers' feedback to me that I then decided to do a sequel, which is Mirror Cracked. Okay. Yeah. So I was actually lucky in that I sent it out to the publishers. Nobody took it up, but I had about 3 publishers come back to me and say, your story is good, your premise is good, but. So it was fabulous. So I listened to all those buts, and then it took me another year and a bit to rewrite both those novels. you know, and I was really glad for that exercise. And in that along that route, I hired the services of a professional editor, and then I got professionally edited. And if I tell you, probably these books were with me, maybe 4, 5, 6 versions, 5 versions, let's say, and then with the editor, another 7.
Yes.
So it's very intensive. Each time I'm briefing her for editing, I'm saying, like, look for this, tell me this, tell me that. Because when you're writing, you want to write. You want to get the especially the initial couple of versions. The process is just get the plot down. And then I work on all the other elements. And my books are very layered. My writing is very layered. So there's a plot, and it's always an interesting, exciting plot. And lots of things happen, and lots of sad things happen. So
yes. I read that book, girl.
But also, there's a lot of deep, intense things happening with the people, and so and then each time it's a different layer. And then I also try and work on the settings quite a bit, not so that it's in your face, but it's just there to help contextualize for the reader. I like to take the reader to the scene. I like the reader to feel like, okay, this is real for them. This is what they're really seeing. So I'm very proud of my writing, and I'm very passionate about it, as I'm sure you can tell. So that's. But I hope that when people read my work, I always say, I can talk and talk and talk about my writing because I can, but I would rather you read my work or hear my work, and then you decide for yourself. I don't want to sit here convincing you that
So we're going to have you read a little extract for us just now. But just before you do that, I want to know, when I met you, well, not when I met you, but when we did a little bit of work together, how long ago? That must have been about 6 years ago. Could it be that long?
Well, initially, Angie, we met.
Yeah, we met a long time ago.
We met when I started doing massage with you, when Vivian introduced me to do massage with you at Cloud9. So I think that was 14 years ago?
Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah,
that was a long time ago. And then we did work together about 3 or 4 years ago. I think 4 years probably. We did some group work, and that was really great. And and since then
I'm talking about writing then. Yeah, you were talking about writing there. You were talking about your writing then. You were talking about your writing there. Next thing I turned around, this book is out, and I was like, I was so excited for you because it is such a big journey. It is such a lot of work to put a book out.
So, actually, yes.
I mean, when did you discover the love for writing? Have you always loved writing? How did this journey of life take you to this place where you started to write?
So, I've always loved reading. I've always loved reading. I've always loved books. I'm blessed. I was very lucky. My dad was a great reader. And he used to encourage me to read, and he used to, bring books for me and say, read this. And, we'd have all these interesting discussions. So that was wonderful, to have that kind of. So that was from the time I was very little. I was a child. I was reading. And at some point I said to him, when people ask, what are you going to do? I thought to myself, okay, I want to write. So I thought, okay, I'm going to study journalism. I want to be a traveling photojournalist. That was my thing, to travel the world, to see the world, and to be able to write about it. And then I didn't get to study journalism for whatever reason. I never got around to doing it, and I never actually pursued that. Other things got in the way. I started doing NGO work, which was great. I loved working at NGOs, so I started doing NGO work, and I was very occupied and busy with all sorts of things. And then, Angie, when the timing is right, the timing is right. Things only happen when they happen, not a moment before that. I firmly believe that. So about 5 years ago, this was when I was working full time. About 5 years ago, I wrote the first novel, which is now 2 novels. I wrote that one. That was while I was working full time. I did it in about a year, in the evenings and over weekends. And that produced that. And then I took a sabbatical from work. I said, okay, for the next 3 months, I'm going to stay at home and try and send this book out to publish. And that was a full-time job, because every publisher has different periods. Sometimes they have different formats, how they want it. Some of them want a query letter. Some of them want the first 3 chapters. Some of them want the first and the last chapter. Some of them want them in double space font, single-sided. Exactly. You've got to prepare the document per thing. Some of them want you to go on the website and see all the different publishers, that they're editors that they have, and see who you're going to pitch it to. So it was intensive work. And I went through that process, and unfortunately nobody took it up, but that's fine. I've since been doing self-publishing, and, I probably, unless I get a publisher come say, we'll publish your work. Unless that happens, I am very happy to self-publish, to continue self-publishing. It's a costly effort, but I love it, and it gives me a lot of control. And these books are my babies, so I'm happy to go through everything with them till they birthed. And
well, self-publishing is the way of books these days, isn't it? There's so much electronic media and whatnot available. It seems that's the way to go, because people are not publishing books that much anymore. I think publishing houses are really on the down, and self-publishing is very much on the up.
So it's definitely worked for me, and and I'm lucky as well, because lots of people are keen to help. Lots of people are, and in the indie authors group. So there's indie authors networking, and I'm part of many independent authors, and I try and attend book fairs and book events, and I like to support all the local authors. So if there's a launch that I can go to, I will go to it. I will put it on social media. I was here, and try and get, because it's all about how you pay it forward, and it's not an easy journey. Let me tell you, this much I can tell you. If you're a writer, if you're even if published or self-published, it doesn't matter. If you're a writer in South Africa, you are a very, very positive and optimistic person. Let me tell you, it is not easy. It is not easy to sell. Unfortunately, we are not a nation of readers, so it's difficult. And on the one hand, while my books have themes and that are very universal and very widely accepting, they are based in the Muslim community. So
yes, I noticed that it's very
people really read my books, people from other communities really read my books and realize just how relevant it is to them. I mean, I had people like white people in Africa, a lot of people who then read it and say to me, first of all, I didn't know so much about the Muslim people, and it's amazing. And the other thing is, oh my God, we're all so similar. We all have the same needs. We all have the same worries. As mothers, this is what we worried about. As workers, this is what we worried about. So it's all very, very. And I had a lot of people say, we're very similar. There's so much more that makes us a community than there is to divide us. So I think that's amazing as well.
Well, I must say, when I read Mirror Crack, that was one of the things that was so interesting to me about that book, was the little looky-loo into another culture, because we are so similar and we have the same things and the same challenges, but at the same time, culturally, there's stuff that you just don't realize. There's stuff that you don't know. You don't know what it feels like to be a Muslim woman. You don't know how the family works. I find it so interesting. It's like the family's coming around. It's like, oh, okay. And then it's cooking, and it's like, and then it's the mother-in-law and how you're supposed to treat the mother-in-law and the expectation that's on you as a Muslim woman. And this was really interesting to me, that little looky-loo into that culture when I read that book. And I love that. It was really, for me, really interesting to look into that South African Muslim experience and what's expected of you and how you're supposed to behave and who's so important, and all the priorities that come from that kind of thing. It's really, really interesting.
And it was quite nice for me to be able to share that, I must tell you something else, that somebody who read the book, one of the reviewers, Sam Marshall, he said, it was amazing for me. I didn't know that I swear he said almost exactly this. I mean, I'm going to paraphrase. I didn't know that Muslim women also enjoyed sex and like to get it on. And, here these two, this like into each other. And I just thought Muslim women sit quietly and just let it happen to them. Okay, he was probably being a bit facetious, but really, he didn't know that, Muslim women are sexual beings as well.
Yeah, because we get all these stereotypical things that come at us.
Yes.
And then it's all this PC is going on whilst the stereotypical image still comes at you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So how do you navigate that? Because you don't realize people are just people, and we're all, we love to love, and it's very interesting to have a look into another culture. It's like almost like wife swap. That show Wife Swap, where you can go into somebody else's house in this experience. It's like going into Wife Swap and having an experience of Raashida as a wife, Raashida's characters as a wife, let's rather say, you know what I mean? Her character as a wife, and how that works out, as a mother, and how that works out, and as a child, and how that works out. So that's really cool. So we decided that Raashida is going to read some of her book to us, so that we can get a little feel for her writing, and also just I don't know. I mean, that's the whole thing. You want to read. You want to be read to. It's divine to be read to. So she's going to read a little bit to us from her book. Have you got something organized?
Yes. So I don't know how much time we have, but what I thought I would do as sort of an introduction is just read something from my poetry. My poetry is different in a way to my novels. My poetry is also it's a lot about my personal journey. So a lot of this, some of it is captured. It was at the start of my writing journey more recently, and so a lot of that is capturing that journey and that process. And it's also a very it's quite an insight into who I am as a person. In fact, after I wrote some of the poetry and I read it, and I thought, oh my God, are you really putting that out there? Are you really brave enough to share this with the world? So yes, it's also a lot. I mean, I'm going to read. I always try and read the title poem because I think it's quite nice. The title poem is "Happy Birthday, Rashi," and it really is. It really is about a celebration of self, a celebration of love, a celebration of life, and also to be able to remember to live in the moment. That's all that we have, that moment. So I'll start with that, and then if there's time, I'll read maybe one or two more poems, and then we'll see from there. So this one is called Happy Birthday, Rashi, and I don't know. I'll see if I can manage without the glasses, but I just put it on in case. I sort of know it.
They're gorgeous, darling.
Thank you, darling. Thank you. Happy birthday, Rashi. I will give myself a gift so special and precious on this, the celebration of my birth. I will love myself enough to present a prize long awaited, as rare and coveted as the chalice of a king. I will stand high in my heels, proud in my knowing, assured in your presence, imbibing you, treasuring the view as rare as black lemonade. I will smile, turning my head to the side, drawing your gaze to my neck, knowing your eyes will not wander lower. But your soul, your being, your heart and mind will wander lower, wander higher, deeper, longer, closer. Fireworks exploding in a blaze of reds, blues, greens, blackest blacks, and whitest whites. A series of soul-searing bangs, starting at my core, my deepest insides, filling me up till it seduces my brain. A crescendo, a roaring waterfall, a symphony, an infinite ripple. While my face will look straight, nodding at the others, the periphery inconsequential, never being distracted from my purpose, to receive my present. For this moment, this here, this now, this present is my wondrous past and wonderful future. Then, sated for a spell, I will leave to return once more. Will it be a year, I wonder? Or will my wandering follow my heart, the path that always lies in your wake? So that's Happy Birthday, Rashi.
Well, I did get little goosebumps. I will not tell a lie.
That's great.
It's really beautiful. It's really beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you. And yeah, like I said, it was the start of my journey. So yeah. And then the other one I'll just read quickly. It's called A Slow Rush.
Okay.
A slow rush. I have struggled to learn the hardest of lessons. Patience. Patience, my most trusted ally, yet my most consistent challenge. An exercise in patience? A test in perseverance? No, more than an exercise, more than a test. A journey, the convoluted and treacherous seas navigated through stormy water, through calm waters, through beautiful mermaids of encouragement and hope, escaping hungry serpents from within. The days shorter, the nights longer, the light longer, the gloom shorter. A journey of love and hate, struggle and accomplishment, fear and acceptance, darkness and light. I have learned and grown, developed and thrived, died and been rebirthed, eventually clearing to reveal the destination. And as I finally land this shore, what do I see? I am on an island, and beyond this shoreline, my next sea beckons, my next journey begins. Patience, my greatest master, tester, and applauder, has prepared me. I am ready to dive in and swim to the next shore and the next. a slow rush, a slow rush.
It's lovely. Your poetry does seem to speak very strongly to that whole experience of a developing life, of a
Yeah.
developing understanding, of a growing experience of how to do life in a
Mm.
way that makes life worth doing.
Absolutely, I mean, and I think there's an art to that, There's an art to that, and you can learn it, but also I think it's also within us, and we just have to learn to trust to hear it, to hear ourselves and to hear. We often, yeah, there's too much of background noise and foreground noise, and we just forget to listen to our true inner selves, because a lot of the things we thought, oh my, I didn't realize that, it's an epiphany. Actually, it's not such an epiphany. You sort of knew that as a child, or you knew that, or you heard that, or there is some great wisdom about that, and then it just takes that moment to actually be aware, and it's about awareness more than anything else, I think.
Absolutely, it's about awareness. It's about learning actually to become kind of still, so that you can hear what's important. Instead of listening to this constant choppy, chatter that's coming from outside, from the inside, like, telling us all about all the rubbish, all about what's wrong with us, all about the. And we have to learn to sink deeper so that we can see ourselves. And your poetry speaks very strongly to that.
Yeah. So although those are sort of a little bit of insight into me, then I want to read another poem or two that talks about, another of my passion projects, or things that I'm very passionate about. So this one is called "Fear Not." Fear not the snarl of the lip that foretells the rage that rises without warning, without reason. Fear not the clenching of the fist that rains blows on your body, a body already battered and bruised. Fear not the boot that endlessly kicks at your cowering, fragile frame, a frame that has withstood and will withstand. Fear not the curses that reduce you to a shell of emptiness, of nothingness, words that stamp out your identity, your humanity. Fear your need to hide the scars and cover the bruises. Fear your remarkable ability to pretend all is well. Fear your eagerness to forgive and forget. Fear your strength to stem the tears. Fear your hope that tomorrow will be different, tomorrow will be better. Fear your reluctance to seek help. Fear your patience, your tolerance, your acceptance. Fear your forbearance. It empowers the coward, the weak, the not man. Celebrate your strength. Overcome your fear. Rejoice in your community. You are an individual, but you are not alone. You are not alone. Okay, so I'll just go on to the next one. It's very short and it's sort of linked. So this one is called Hear Me, My Son.
Okay.
Yours is not a hand unless it holds to guide, not strike. Yours is not an eye unless it looks with kindness, not anger. Yours is not a leg unless it walks with purity of intention, not to kick. Yours is not a tongue unless it speaks of love, not abuse. Yours is not a lip unless it smiles with tenderness, not disgust. Yours is not a finger unless it points within, not accusing. Yours is not a heart unless it beats to uplift and nurture, not to instill terror. Hear me, my son. You are not a man unless you live your humanity.
Wow. They're particularly poignant considering the goings on in America right now.
Everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Mm.
Sure. Raashida, I don't even know what to say.
Okay.
Well, it's amazing how
I can read a little bit from my novel, or people normally love the poetry. I think even people who don't read read poetry. There's a lot of people who don't read poetry normally, you know. Even people who don't read poetry, when they hear my poetry, they enjoy it. So I don't mind continue reading my poetry as well, because it's always well received. And, you know, it's done. It's big.
Well, let's have some poetry again at the end. And what I want to ask you about is, tell me more about where do you get your inspiration from? How is it as a writer that are you walking around with a little notebook, and every time something goes ping in your brain, you're like, can't wait to, just like, story time, I've got to go, no more coffee, I'm out of here, I've got to go and write. You know, how's it work? Where are you getting your stuff from? How do you do it? I'm just interested, because people keep saying, oh, you should write a book. I'm like, hell no. Hell to the no, I'm not writing a book. I'll put a video out there any day, but I'm not writing a book. It's too hard. So I'm really interested in this process of writing.
So, you know, so there's a lot of things. I mean, I think one of the most important, or one of the most enabling things for me to be able to write has been the fact that I've lived a life, you know. I've lived it. I'm not young. I didn't start off like some people start off when they're teenagers or in early 20s. I started writing when I was probably 46, 47. That's when I started writing properly. So I've had a life experience. I like to think of myself as a very observant person. So I've really engaged and interacted with I love interacting and engaging with people. I mean, that's I can do that anytime. I love just observing people, you know. Before lockdown, and for all my life, in fact, whenever I could. I mean, I'm not a very big choppy person, but I'd love to just go and take a magazine or a book and sit down at a coffee shop and watch the beautiful people of Joburg go by. I love that, you know. I love in the park. When I'm in the park, I'm always looking at people, always interacting, engaging if I can. And if not, I'm always there's always something to learn from some people and from people and, you know, things. So there's been that. That's been a big inspiration. Also, I've read a lot in my life. So books, you know, books and stories. I mean, I'm a storyteller and I'm a story consumer. I love stories, you know. I love stories. And I love the fact that stories can actually help you to make sense of life, you know, because life can be pretty hectic and pretty shitty sometimes. So I love that stories help us to identify who we are. They help us to place us in a community, while at the same time help us to understand who we are as individuals. So I think that stories are a huge inspiration to me. I mean, and then also, very, very importantly, much as the story and the plot is important, it's the characters. So I work quite intensively on my characterization, and each of them is a very real person to me. Each of them is a very, very complete real person. I know them quite well. I know them quite intimately. And having said that, though, you know, I've got the plot outline and I know this character, and then I'm writing the book, and this character will then go ahead and do whatever the hell he or she wants anyway. You know, and I've got to change things, because that's what happens when you're writing. That process is always there. It's always happening. I mean, I don't do a lot of rewriting in terms of plot, but I do start off with that, the process. And now I do start off with a plot outline, which is probably about 30 sentences of things that will happen, you know. This will happen, this person will meet that person, that will happen, and that 30, 35, whatever points will become chapters. So they might become 30 chapters, they might become 25 chapters, but it just depends. Some things along the way won't go exactly like that. Things will move along because the people have decided they can't do this now, or they're not listening to me, they're doing their own thing, or it just doesn't work, or, you know, either I didn't set up the backstory enough, whatever it is. But that's more or less the trajectory and the process that happens. Yeah. You know, I always say, I love the one quote, I'm going to paraphrase it because I'll never remember it exactly, but they always say about, truth is stranger than fiction because fiction has to be believable. So I have to set my stories in real life, in things that could, you know, things have to be plausible. And I mean, the other process is also, there's a bit of research. You know, right now I've just started my new novel. I started writing my new novel. My new novel, called The Cursed Touch, is in design and production. The one that I've been writing for the past year.
Say the title again.
Sorry.
Say the title again.
The Cursed touch.
First touch.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the first touch. So that's in design and production at the moment, and it should be launched, I would say, in about a month or so. I'm hoping to do an online launch. Maybe Angela will do an online launch with me. That's a chance.
Of course I will, with pleasure.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So we need to do. I'm going to do a launch for that one, but I've just started writing my new novel. It's loosely called From Pain Comes Healing. So normally when I'm starting a book, I just have a very loose title, and the title itself is a long process to get to that point.
Yeah.
So I've just started writing. It's about addiction. So it's about a woman who's an addict. Yeah. So there's always some hectic topic, and her journey and what happens with her. But there's also two women. So the one woman, the main character, we would say is she's an addict. So there's a little bit of research you have to do. This woman's addicted to painkillers. Now I don't know anything about being addicted to painkillers. I might know about addictions, baby, but not to painkillers. So there's a little bit of research you have to do, and that also sort of helps to germinate and generate ideas and things, because well, maybe that could happen there, and so, and just stuff that happens in life. I think there's enough that happens in life that can spark an idea or two. And the other thing is, almost everything has been written. You don't really, every story follows more or less the same path. There's a person, the main character, the one that you have to get the readers vested in and interested in and want to help that person. That person wants to reach a particular goal. There's something in the way of preventing that person from getting to that goal, and then this person either overcomes it or not. And so there's like a story arc.
Yeah.
So that is basically how the story structure goes, and yeah. Yeah, but I mean, look, there is a fair amount of there's a little bit of talent involved, but also it's a skill. It's a skill that you can learn if you decide this is what you want to do. It's not something completely out of the ordinary for a person to be able to write. I know people think, and you keep saying, oh, you could never write a book. Actually, it's not that hard. It's really not that hard if you want to do it. Whether or not you do a course or two, I would recommend doing a course, because you don't know what you don't know. If that's what you really want to do, it is doable. And and everybody finds their own way and their own path. I'm quite convinced of that.
I think it's interesting, because for me, it's not that I feel like I could never write a book. I've got more than enough content to write a book in like a weekend. Probably I could throw a book out there in a weekend, and it would probably make sense, because
it just won't be proofread and edited.
Not even close. That's the problem. It's for me, it's like, I think that there's this, I don't know if you ever read that book. You remember the woman who wrote Eat, Pray, Love?
Yes, Elizabeth Gilbert.
She wrote a book, something about magic. Do you remember the title?
Okay.
I don't know if you ever read it.
I didn't read them.
Basically, this book is about purpose and passion, and following your purpose and passion, and that kind of stuff. And she speaks quite extensively. I read the book and I saw quite a few interviews. Very interesting if you're looking to watch her interview. And she basically says, she tells the story about this guy that she knew, and the two of them were learning how to write together in college. And they would write and write and write and write and write and write and write. And the one day she met him for coffee, and he said to her, I'm giving this up. I can't do it anymore. I'm not interested. I don't want to do this anymore. This sucks piles. I hate it. He says, every day I'm eating a shit sandwich. And she's like, yeah, you are. You're eating it. That's true. And she says, here's the thing about becoming a writer, is that it's true about every job. It's true about every career. It's true about everything you do, is that no matter how passionate you are about something, some part of it is going to be the shit sandwich, right? Of course. And it doesn't matter how much you love it, there's going to be some part that's the shit sandwich. And she says the only difference is, are you still so passionate about it that you're willing to eat the shit sandwich?
As well.
And how you go about eating the shit sandwich, you're going to have one bite and then the good stuff, or you're going to have all the shit sandwich at the same time, or you're going to start with the shit sandwich, you're going to wait till the end and then eat the shit sandwich. She says it doesn't matter. Somewhere along the way, you're going to have to eat the shit sandwich. And the question is, how passionate about the thing are you that you're willing to eat the shit sandwich, or the shit sandwich is like, I'm done with the shit sandwich, I'm not eating any more of these shit sandwiches. And that's like, when I think about writing, I'm thinking about shit sandwich and like, oh, I could get some stuff down that I'm really interested and passionate about. Whereas for
Well,
you,
look,
the shit sandwich is so worth
gotta
eating,
weigh up. I mean, there's a lot of shit sandwich. I'll kid you not. But there's
Yeah.
also a lot of reward. There's also a lot of, a lot. So it just, for me, it's worth it. For me, it's
Yes,
absolutely worth it.
you love it. It's clear.
Yes, everything that's challenging about writing a book, about self-publishing, the
Yeah.
cost. I mean, people don't understand. Uh, I don't sell books, unfortunately. I only sell books at events. So if I have a launch, I will sell
Okay.
a few copies. I don't sell a lot, unfortunately, right? I have a distributor who does help me to get this thing into exclusive books and bargain books and whatever. It's not a great. Maybe I sell one or two books at exclusive books every 3 months.
Okay.
That, right? If I'm at an event, if I'm at a book fair, or if I'm doing a launch, I might get. And here again, I'm not kidding. Maybe at a launch, 20, 25 books will get sold, maybe more.
Okay.
At an event, 5 or 10 books would get sold. So I don't sell a lot of books. I don't make any income from books, right? Having said that, this book here, Mirror Cracked, it cost me 17,000 Rand to do the editing. I'm not even talking about the printing and the publication and promotion. My editing process is intensive. I mean, I use a very professional, very good editor, and it adds up. It adds up. So there is no way, you must understand when I say I write as a passion, there is no way. So I'm completely funding myself,
Yeah.
And I'm
you're not getting rich out of it anytime soon.
And it does. I'm happy. One day it'll take off. It won't. It doesn't matter. It's all part of the process, and that's how it goes. And I mean, the books are not even expensive. I tried even to do a little bit of promotion and a push for ebooks during lockdown on Amazon. Unfortunately, people don't buy books. And yeah, I mean, that is a blanket kind of a statement, but generally, I mean, the statistics in South Africa are horrific. If you know how few people read, such a scary thing. I mean, there's like, of our population of 50 million people, we have probably 50,000 regular readers.
What?
I mean, that's like 0.1% or something. I'm talking about regular readers, somebody who goes to bed and reads every night. Of those people, half of them only read one book a year or something bizarre. I mean, it was so scary that I probably blocked it out of my mind. It's really, really, and then you get those people who read 10 books a month. So there are those as well.
That's me. That's
exactly.
me.
And you would think, because I was a reader, I just thought everybody read, and it's not true. Everybody reads, and I mean, I find
those people just sitting and staring.
Sorry,
where's your book? You can entertain yourself. Why are you so bored? What's going on here?
Exactly.
And my best thing is not
forever. Yeah. But
I mean, hopefully now that I can do that. Sorry,
hopefully it's something that can change, that we can become a reading nation, because we really need to be. I mean, if there's anything that can actually change the trajectory of where our societies are, if there's anything that can really make a tangible and real difference, it's reading. If we get our kids to start reading, I mean, the statistics on that hat, early intervention with reading, making sure children read to understand, making sure parents read to children, all of those kinds of things, the impact it has on children growing up, it's just all positive. So if we can get that right, we could turn this thing around in less than a generation. I'm so convinced of it. But anyway, I do my bit as a writer to try and get people to read. And so I have converted a few people who may not have been reading before, but were interested because I wrote a book. So there are people who are now reading. So I'm quite chuffed with that.
Well, I think it's an interesting issue, because my personal opinion about, I mean, I've always loved to read, and I consume books. I can read a book a day quite easily. It's not a problem. But my brother, when we were in primary school, he never read a book to completion, even if it was a set work, until I think the Day of the Triffids or something. And then he loved that book and he became a reader. And my personal opinion is that, my parents read to us all the time. My mother was a great reader. She always used to read to us. She was constantly with a book. I mean, you still just, you see the book in her handbag, because she's not going anywhere without a book, right? As is proper, as far as I'm concerned. But so he was never a reader, and then he read this book and he became a reader. And I think that a big problem is that we're not being presented with books in school that make people go, oh wow, this is so much fun, And I think, like, if you think about the Harry Potter series, personally, the Harry Potter series was children's books as far as I was concerned, and that was wonderful. But they were amazing children's books. Children loved them. And suddenly there was this whole massive amount of people reading.
Everybody was reading. All the children were reading. Yeah.
You know, and that was amazing to me. It's like, well, if only at school, just, you know, start with Harry Potter. Forget about Shakespeare. You can do that at varsity. Start with Harry Potter. Start with something that excites a child's imagination, and surely they're going to start saying, "Oh, this is so much fun."
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, I have two boys. One of them loves to read and the other doesn't. But even the other one that doesn't, you know, so I try and encourage him. So I bought him, like, you know, the Die Hard books, things that I know that will interest him to read, you know, and he likes short stories. So you've got to, you got to, if you want to encourage your children to read, let them read what they know and enjoy and are passionate about. That's the most important thing.
My friend's daughter reads so fast. I was actually timing her a few months ago. Well, actually, it was last year, end of last year. She reads so fast, and I timed her speed, and she reads like 1,800 words a minute.
That's incredible.
1,800
so, you
words
know,
a minute.
There is such a thing called speed reading, and
I've done the course. I do speed reading.
Behind speed reading is the faster you read, the more you absorb. That is, you know, that is, yeah, because apparently our brain capacity is. You can absorb. So we read slowly because that's how we taught to read. We taught to verbalize words.
Exactly.
Whereas if you train the mind to see the words without verbalizing, without hearing them, without the audio, you can absorb more because your sight can take in much more than you can hear the words as you need to speak them. So apparently, if you can do speed reading, you're actually going to be a more attentive reader, apparently.
Yeah.
That's the theory.
Well,
anyway.
that is absolutely true. I did a speed reading course in my 20s.
Oh, did you?
I did, and I do speed read.
Wonderful.
And I can tell you that when I'm reading fast, I'm reading probably round about the time when you get to about 800 or 900 words a minute. The content of the page starts to come to your mind like a video. It stops being words that you then string together as a picture. Just the picture comes off the page, around 800 or 900 words a minute.
That's incredible.
So it's a really interesting experience to learn speed read. It is work. You have to train the mind because we speak at about 250 words a minute, unless you're me, because I speak very, very fast, and so if I speak fast, but anyway, you speak at about 250 words a minute. So when you read to yourself, it slows you down to that speed. And the fastest you can speak is around about 450 words a minute, which is really speaking fast. So you actually, by reading aloud to yourself, you limit your speed of reading to 450 words a minute at the most. And you know, I don't know if you know this, but here's for you guys to try out. If you just take your finger and you run it under the line of the text, and you do an exercise for less than 2 minutes of just running your finger under the line of the text and asking your eyes to follow it at a speed that you can't actually read at, when you start reading again, if you follow your finger with your finger under the line of the text, you'll double your reading speed. Just from a 2-minute exercise and using your finger. And the reason that works is that one of the things that happens when you read is that your eyes jump backward. So you read, but then your eyes jump back to double check what you've read, and that's what slows us down. So when you follow your finger, it forces your eyes to just move in one direction. And because you move, you actually double your speed. But ultimately, speed reading, like people who are really, really good at, like Teddy Roosevelt, read 10,000 words a minute. 10,000 words a minute. He could not turn his page fast enough. At the speed at which he read. I mean, that's incredible. What a power.
That's amazing. So he was not seeing even a line, he was seeing a page.
A whole page.
Like that.
Whole page. Yeah.
Amazing.
And the brain has the capacity to comprehend the entire page in one step.
I mean, we just don't. We use about maybe 10% of the capacity of our brain, so we should stretch our brains.
Well, I tell you what, I don't speed read at night because the moment I start reading too fast at night, my concentration level comes up so sharply that I can't fall asleep.
It's not conducive to you to fall asleep. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have to actually deliberately slow myself down if I want to read before bed. Otherwise, I'm like, okay, I'm awake. It really hypes up your concentration and your focus. It's pretty amazing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's good to know.
Guys, here's my piece of advice for you. I have read Raashida's book. I've read her Mirror Cracked, and I've read her poetry anthology. And I recommend that you go ahead and buy this book from Raashida. But now, Raashida, how can they go ahead and buy this book from you? Now, let me hold on a second. I'm going to put a little banner here with the information as you tell me. How would they get hold of you so they can get hold of your book?
So ebooks are available on Amazon, and actually Amazon can also deliver a hard copy of the books as well to you on Amazon. That is for both the novels and the short story collection. That's the short story collection and both the novels. The poetry, you can only get it as an ebook on Amazon at the moment. We haven't converted it to the thing. Okay.
What is the second book in the series after Mirror Cracked called?
So the first one is Mirror Cracked, and I don't have a copy of the second one with me at the moment. It's called Fragrance of Forgiveness. So Mirror Cracked was the first one. Fragrance of Forgiveness was the sequel. And then the short stories is called Your Voice, My Strength, and Other Stories. And the poetry is Happy Birthday, Rashi. So all of these are available on Amazon, so that's fine. But you can also get them, the novels and the short stories are available at most exclusive books. Well, not all of them have it, but they have it on their system. So if you go into your branch and they don't have it, then you ask them to order it for you, if that's what you want to do. Otherwise, you can get in touch with me because I have copies of my book as well. You can get in touch with me on my website. My website is www.raashisreflections.com, and that's RAASHIS reflections.com. Or you can get in touch with me on my social media. I'm on Facebook. Just search Raashi's Reflections, Instagram, Twitter, and just send me your details, and then I can courier it off to you. If it's in Joburg, I normally do free delivery if it's in and around. But if it's anywhere else, I charge 100 Rand through Postnet via Postnet or Aramax or one of those others. The books, the novels are 250 each. The poetry is 150, and the short stories is 200. So yeah, please get in touch if you want to get any of my books. Or yeah, you can get them from and then a few of the independent bookstores like Love Books and Scoobs in Monte Cassino. Love Books is in Melville, Scoobs is in Monte Cassino. Some of the independent stores also keep it, and they also at some of the Islamic bookstores because of the Muslim thing. So some of the Islamic bookstores keep them as well. So yeah, so they are all over the place.
Can you give me your email address again?
Certainly, it's Khan Raashida, KhanRaashida @gmail.com. So it's Khan Raashida, my surname, my name, one word, @gmail.com.
Okay. Look at the bottom of your screen and just check that I've written this correctly. I've probably spelled a few things wrong, as you know me.
No, it's fine. It looks good. Yeah, so it's Mirror Cracked, Fragrance of Forgiveness. Yes, and you can search either by title or by my name. It comes up pretty easily on Amazon. And if you buy on Amazon, please leave a review. It makes a big difference after you've read it. So if you purchase the ebooks, and you can go onto Amazon with your account, and then you say, I've read this book, and you can write a review. And it's, the review can be 3 words: loved it, hated it, whatever, or a star rating. You can just do a star rating. And that sort of helps to get, I don't know how Amazon works. They have something called algorithms or whatever. So it helps to get the books a little bit higher up when people are searching for, certain types of genres or whatever.
So having heard that actually the way that you sell books mostly is in person, if anybody wants to get hold of Raashida to do a talk at their enormous, great 500 people come to this talk book club and to read some of her stuff, or if you're a Scoobs or you have anything going on that you want her to read some of her poetry at, I'm pretty sure Raashida would be very, very happy to attend your event. If you've got a fair on the go and you want to speak her, Raashida is your gal. If you've got a community project on the go, she's your gal. She wants to get herself out there. She wants to speak. And obviously, you've heard her poetry. She has beautiful poetry. She's very interesting to speak to. So, yeah, there's a speaker for you, who can really inspire you if you are, if you're just looking for some poetry and inspiration, or if you're looking to inspire authors, or, you know what I mean? She's your gal. So the bigger the crowd, the happier she is, because she's got those books to sell. She needs to make back all that self-publishing money that's cost her a fortune to publish. And obviously, more important than anything else is that she's had this heartfelt project, this thing from the soul that she really wants to share with other people. It's like really, you don't want to sit there and write this thing from the soul for years and years and not share it. So help Raashida share her stuff. Be a doll. Be a fabulous person. Interview her on Facebook. Come on, guys. You can help this woman.
Please. I find that these kinds of things do help to create and generate awareness. So it's so important to get out there. And much as they say that people are not reading, there are so many writers. South African writing and South African authors are just incredibly awesome. So there's a lot of us out there. Don't only support me, support as many as you can. The other thing that I didn't mention, Angie, is that I run workshops. So I run writing workshops. I run a poetry writing workshop and a prose writing workshop. I find, and in fact, my poetry writing workshop is called Finding Your Inner Self. So it's a great thing if you want to dabble in poetry and want to try and figure out how to write poetry. But it's also a very, very, it's just a little exercise for you if you ever want to just delve a little bit and figure out exactly who you are, where you're coming from, and not that you don't know it, but just to get a deeper insight. Because my poetry writing is very, very personal. So I'm revealing, and to be able to reveal yourself, you have to know yourself. So my process of writing has been a lot of internal searching and internal sharing. So and so the poetry workshop goes down very well. Ideally minimum of 18 people, so a group of girls, book club girls, or anybody who is just interested in, not only girls, but I've had guys attend my poetry writing workshop and they write beautifully and they really, really engage. So they're very interactive and engaging. It's quite personal. We do writing exercises. I'll also do sometimes a visualization exercise, and I give you feedback, and people will get a chance and opportunity to read their poetry, and I do try and give feedback. So it is quite exciting, and it's normally about 2.5 hours, and please book me for that, and we can do it via Zoom if anybody's interested. Do a similar thing with the prose writing, and I also run a workshop on forgiveness. So I also run a workshop on forgiveness. I've done it at the South African Book Fair last year, and it went out very well. And I had just had one schedule, and then it all got cancelled because of COVID. But and that is also a very, very interesting one if people are struggling with something or some challenge in life and want to be able to help to release that. And it's actually quite simple and practical. So I would encourage people to get in touch with me via my website or on the email address, which is khanraashida@gmail.com, and book me. But the information is all on my website, so you'll get the information there. But feel free to get in touch with me. And if you want to, I can tailor make a workshop that you think would suit your particular group or book club or association or whatever it is. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you very much. Raashida is up to all sorts, and she can be very helpful to you in your journey. All of our stuff will be listed in the comments section below. All of what I do, all of the free stuff that I do, that if you want to get on and come to the Angel Circle, which is a free group coaching session. If you want to see any of my videos all about how you can learn to love yourself and have an unconditional experience of your own life, there's lots of free stuff on my website that will all be listed below, as well as how you can get in touch with me. Raashida's workshops, her book, how to get hold of her, how to buy from her, how to speak to her, that will all be listed below in the Facebook comments section. So Rashi's going to go and put her stuff there, and I'm going to go put my stuff there. So if you do want to get hold of either of us, please feel free. And Raashi will share this to her Facebook page as well when we're done. So thank you very much. It's been so fascinating to talk to you today.
It was wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Raashi. She's going to say goodbye to everybody for now. Have a beautiful, beautiful day.
Bye, people. Enjoy.